It's in Disneyland.
Carl is not going to be with us today. He's in San Diego at the
It's in Disneyland.
Transformation Task Force.
Being transformed.
Being transformed, right.
Okay, the time is 9 o'clock and at this time I would like to welcome everyone to the Monterey Salinas Transit District Board Operations Performance Committee meeting. And as I said, it's 9 o'clock. And with that, this Board Operations Performance Committee meeting is in person and is being held here in the Monterey Salinas Transit Board Office conference room. And with that, we will have public participation. Well, there's 3 ways to join this meeting today. So it's to join in person here in the board conference room. Also, you may join the meeting via Zoom, and the meeting ID is located on the agenda, and either by phone by dialing 1-669-900-6833. And with that, I will like to go ahead and call this meeting to order. And who would like to take roll call?
The City of Carmel by the Sea,
Here.
City of King,
Present.
City of Marina,
Here.
City of Pacific Grove,
Here.
City of San City,
Here.
and City of Salinas.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Jeanette. And with that, we'll move on to public comments on matters not on the agenda. And at this time, members of the public may address the board committee on any matter related to the jurisdiction of MST, but not on the agenda. There is a time limit of 3 minutes, and with that, I'll go ahead and open up for public comment. So, and I think someone could be my honest, I didn't bring my computer.
Madam Chair, I see no public comment.
Okay, all right, with that, we'll go ahead and close public comment, and we'll move on to the consent agenda. On the consent agenda, we have one item, and that's to approve the minutes of the Board Operation Performance Committee of February 12th, 2024. And with that, are there any comments from the boards on this item?
Move to approve.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. I will open it up to the public for public comment. Public comment is open. And not seeing anyone in the room or via Zoom, we'll close public comment. We have a motion and a second. Do we need a roll call vote? Or everyone's here, so all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any noes? Motion carries.
May I ask who made the second motion?
We have, did I,
First by Barrera, second by Emilio?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
thank you. So motion carries, and we'll move on to action items. And the first one is to review of operation performance 7-1, and I think Lisa, you all have this, right?
Yes. Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. I'm happy to report that we've seen a 23.2% increase in ridership between February 2023 and February 2024. So all in all, things are picking up and people are riding transit more and more. I did want to mention in Carl's report on 7-1 in the board agenda packet, he attended an SB 125 Transit Transformation Task Force in Sacramento, and that's where he is today, except not in Sacramento, in San Diego. So I am stepping in his place, and hopefully that goes well. I know that they're doing some interesting and transformative ideas there. So that's all I have for that one.
Okay. Any director comments at this moment?
Just one.
I just want to acknowledge how important it is for someone from our agency to be part of that task force. It ensures that smaller, well, we have one of the largest regions in the country, right? I know in the state, but one of the largest transit districts. We're still a small one. So I'm just very happy that we have representation on that board.
Mhm.
Thank you. Any other comments? And if not, we'll open it up, public comment. Public comment is open. And seeing no one, we will go ahead and close public comment. And that's just to receive. Okay. With that, we will move on to the next item. This is to receive an update on the CERT project.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. So on agenda item 5-1 in the regular packet, there's an update on the CERT project, a recommendation for authorizing the general manager CEO to enter into a contract with Granite Rock Myers to purchase some early work items that are necessary. These will be steel soldier piled beams for the retaining walls as part of the project, and they'll be Build America, Buy America compliant. Steel has typically been an item that takes a long time to get on the schedule of these limited number of steel suppliers in the United States. So we wanted to be able to get on their schedule earlier rather than later, so we're not delaying the project. It is just over $1 million worth of steel. And then the second item is to adopt a resolution committing MST local funds for construction in a letter of no prejudice request to the California Transportation Commission. And what that does is allows us to enter into contracts for the construction phase of the work using local funds first, and then getting the allocation from the California Transportation Commission later, and then you can get reimbursement after that allocation is made. So it's using local funds first and then getting reimbursed for those local funds at a later date. The other thing that I'll be reporting on is that the construction cost actually itself has increased from the 65% design milestone to the 95% design milestone, mainly because of scope that was unknown at the time. So let me explain. So while we're designing the project at 65%, the last item to come up is related to stormwater. We don't know how much grading is actually going to occur until we get to that 95% level, and stormwater bioretention basins, lengths of pipes, etc., isn't going to be known until after that grading information is available to us. So the largest component of those cost increases relate to stormwater control, which is a requirement. Also, construction costs have generally gone up on most projects within the region. In 2021, 13.4% increase in construction costs generally, 9.3 in 2022, and 9.4 in 2023. It's been leveling off, but we've been caught up in those construction cost increases as well. The limiting factor for us is that we've entered into this contract with Granite Rock Myers, and they're a CMGC firm, construction management general contractor for pre-construction work, which helps us work through design with the construction contractor's eye on the project, and they've helped to find value engineering items to help keep that cost limited. And because we're going through an independent cost estimate at the 95% design level, along with their construction cost items, it limits the amount of increase that could occur if we were doing the traditional design bid build process. So we don't think that it's going to go up much more, because we have real prices right now from all of the subs, and the known labor rates of the contractor are available today. rather than having a lag time with the engineer's estimate versus when you go out to bid, we are doing things in real time. So that's the cost increase. On the good news side of things, last week we received 2 permits approved by the Marina Planning Commission. That was a coastal development permit for all of 0.37 acres located within Marina's certified local coastal program. And then also a tree removal permit from them. 92 trees are being removed and replaced with 184 in total. So it's a 2-to-1 ratio. And so we'll be actually physically replanting 123 trees on site, and the remainder will be in lieu fees to the city where they can plant trees where they want to. And in fact, the Planning Commission suggested on the Del Monte corridor.
Perfect. We need trees there.
Yeah. And we did receive quite a bit of community support, and we have over time. Here's a packet of support that we've received from state and federal elected officials and local folks and community-based organizations. So it's quite impressive, the amount of support we're getting from the community. And then there will be questions, there continue to be questions about future rail use along the corridor. And I've invited our designer to be at the board meeting at 10 o'clock so we can go through some of those questions about the condition of the existing tracks, the upgrades that are needed to bring rail back to Monterey, the cost per mile of future rail versus what we're doing today, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what I'll be talking about at 10 o'clock on the surf project. Happy to answer any questions.
You know, I appreciate all the support. I'm always interested in constituency support. You said you had a lot of support from the Marina community. Can you share a little bit about that? Because usually there's always somebody that ties themselves around a tree or something, and so, yeah, I always.
I love trees too. We wouldn't be able to survive without them.
Yes.
But in our letter to the Marina Planning Commission about this support, we've been collecting cards where people can sign them and say, I support the surf project and the coastal development permits. We know that that's going to be a place where people will show up.
Mhm.
So for 40+ individual members of the community through our outreach efforts and what have you. Keep in mind though, too, these other organizations, like community-based organizations, represent, you know, thousands of individuals in our community. We've even got Monterey Bay Aquarium along with Landwatch and
Oh, if you got Landwatch, there it is.
that was a huge win.
It's
And
like
I think they recognize the fact that if we don't do anything about public transportation and increasing access, then we're going to find ourselves stuck
Yeah.
on area roads in a parking lot.
Yeah.
And that doesn't do anybody any good.
Good.
So Monterey County Hospitality Association supports, so they represent a lot of people.
Yeah, Chair. I think it really helped having that site visit with the members of the tree committee,
Mhm.
because they recommended the planning commission approve the tree removals, because they were there, they could see, you know, MST already limited the number of trees that had to be taken out.
Yeah.
And if you're there, you see it like, you cannot build this with the trees still there. So
Right.
that was really helpful.
So these are the,
There
Little-
it is.
yeah, so it's a vital step towards addressing the environmental and transportation challenges facing Monterey County, improving quality of life for all. Strongly urge Coastal Commission to grant MST a coastal development permit. And I support the project for these reasons. So we've been getting a lot of those.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So speaking of the coastal commission, things are still on track to get that final permit.
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. They are not fast enough for us, but we have submitted 4 rounds of additional information to them. As of last communications from them, they didn't have any more questions and requests for additional information or analysis. So that would indicate to us that we would be no later than September on a commission agenda.
And so a couple of months ago, when we were having the roundabout discussion with Sand City, you know, it came up that if we miss a particular deadline, then the whole project slips by a year because of some of the nesting habits of some of the birds or something like that. Is September the last possible date that when is our sort of drop dead date with the Coastal Commission to not slip by a whole year?
Right, so that's a great question, and what we're trying to do with the project is move forward with some of the components that we can without the Coastal Commission's approval. So the commission's approval goes from about south of Highway 1 over crossing in Marina all the way to just about to the Sand City line. So in all those other areas with the tree removal permit, we can clear out a lot of those trees within the time frame that we need. So its nesting period is October 1st, 15th?
No, September 15th.
September 15th through February 1st, essentially. So we're trying to get that window. If we didn't get that window, the ramification would be that we continue to do that work. We have to hire a biologist to make sure that we're not impacting nesting birds through the Migratory Bird Act and bats and these other things that are critical. Timeline is February to September 15th, you know, when they're fledging their kids and what have you, so.
And so you don't think you're comfortable doing that without the final permit from the Coastal Commission? Making progress on other parts of the project. I mean, obviously the project can't go.
It would be a risk if the Coastal Commission denied the project. Obviously, we'd appeal it, but.
Well, there's no appealing a Coastal Commission denial. There's a lawsuit.
Well, right. So, okay. So say they say no, then we'd have to have a difficult conversation.
So do you think that by moving forward with this other work before the Coastal Commission says yes, you know, there's a chance that we're all going to have a difficult conversation, which would be made more difficult by the fact that we've already spent some of the money that, you know, some of that budgeted money when the project all of a sudden comes to a halt?
Like I said, it would be a very difficult conversation, and there is risk, of course. Keep in mind too that the 5th Street Station area is the place that has the most number of trees. So to realize that project without the surf wouldn't be as effective, but we could continue to do that work, but we'd have to reconsider a lot of the routes, and I don't know if it would be as impactful of a system without the surf project.
But would we be I mean, so again, this is of course speculation, but without the permit, would we be in danger of losing some of the funding that we've
Yes,
secured?
yes,
So that would in turn, so without that funding, that in turn puts us at some amount of risk, correct?
yeah, a considerable
Like the
amount of
agency-
risk.
the
Yeah,
agency.
it's an uncomfortable place for staff to be, for sure, with that amount of risk. I would have loved to have seen the Coastal Commission hear the project well before September, but their process is inherently bureaucratic.
Joe?
Yeah, I'm only speaking from one councilman from member from Pacific Grove, but I've been on 5 years and we've been working on the ATC project with the Coastal Commission. And it did go back and forth, clarify. Of course, we had a third party who was building the unit, the ATC hotel. So anyway, it went back and forth because it was during my first term for almost two and a half years, and they finally heard it, and they had the pros and cons on which Lisa's probably very familiar with on the project, but the coastal commission finally heard it in 9-1 vote to approve the hotel. So
Who was the one?
that the coastal commission, I'm not sure who the one was.
Was it, basically that question is, was it our local commissioner or was
No,
it
it
someone
was
else?
no, it was
Someone else?
yeah,
It wasn't,
the coast-
it wasn't Justin Cummings.
No, it was just the coastal commission. When they hear the project, there was 10 of them and one voted, it was 9-1 vote to approve the project is what happened. So, and, you know, there was pros and cons that spoke up, you know, and the project's really worked hard, but I'm not trying to birdwalk here, but I just wanted to mention about the coastal commission for a long time, 2.5 years to get it approved.
Has there been any contact between a member of this board and a commissioner? Do you know?
I don't know that. I do know that Carl and I have had meetings with coastal commissioners, introducing them to the SURF project.
With like Commissioner Cummings, who's,
Yes.
okay,
And the one from Landwatch, I've forgotten her name off the top of my
Yeah.
head, but Landwatch, of course, has supported
Yeah.
the project. We had a meeting with Carol Hart, of course, Carol Groom, yeah, she's no longer on the commission, but we had a conversation with her when she was. And I believe Carl has had other conversations with coastal commissioners, all of whom have been very excited about the project. And in fact, Carol Hart, who's the chair now from the northern part of the state, has a rail banking program with the rail and trail project that goes through the Coastal Commission territory, and she's been very excited about that. Rail banking for future rail and trail, et cetera. So she was excited about, they've all been excited about the project. We don't anticipate that there would be anything but a yes vote.
yeah, it's just, it concerns me, I mean, it's not just the yes vote, it's not just the yes or no vote that concerns me, it's also the timing.
Yeah,
So, you know, projects can get stale, and if, you know, we do, so if the vote doesn't happen in September, it happens, you know, next July. You know, projects get weird when some stuff happens and then everything stops and, you know, lose momentum and all that, and
so they have statutory requirements for staff bringing items to the commission. We have advice from a former Coastal Commission staffer who's been advising us on the team. And that advice tells us that they would hear the project no later than September.
yeah, but, you know, as my city found out when we tried to amend our LCP to ban timeshares or strengthen our ban on timeshares, sometimes these things show up to the commission and the recommendation is to continue it. And, you know, the commission can't really do anything because the only thing they have in their packet is a recommendation to continue it. So if staff shows up at a September meeting with a recommendation to continue, they'll meet their statutory obligation to hear it within a year. And they'll just say, we need another year, and they'll shove you down the calendar for another year. This all goes to saying that this makes me moderately uncomfortable.
I understand.
Okay,
How can we help my colleague to make him a
Yeah.
little bit comfortable?
I guess maybe that's a question for offline. I'm not exactly sure, but it, you
Well,
know,
it might make you feel more comfortable knowing that the Marina Planning Commission approved those permits. Up next, we're going to Sand City to get additional permits. The other permits are more administrative, grading, encroachment, that kind of thing. Most of those permits are administrative. They don't have to necessarily go before quasi-political boards. So as we work towards the May, June timeframe, we anticipate the vast majority, if not all, of the permits, except for the California Coastal Commission permit, will be complete. Including a Caltrans permit, which, by the way, is no easy task.
Mhm. Okay,
Is it the steel, the authorization for the steel that's,
I think this deal is the sort of, it's basically. It's basically the risk around, not getting the permit or having a significant delay around that one permit. So I appreciate that all the other permits are sort of a show of good faith by all the other agencies, including Caltrans, that this is a viable project. But the commission can be a little bit, peripatetic in terms of what they, what the lens they use to view these projects with is.
Yeah.
And so it's relying on that, one permit that, and the risk associated with not getting it or delays. So the steel is just a completely visible example of something, so we spend, $2 million on steel and we don't get the permit or the permit's delayed or something like that. Who's gonna pay for the steel? Is MST gonna pay for the steel? Like, let's say the steel ends up being junked, and I'm sure that's not the case, but let's say the steel ends up being junked. Does it come out of MST's pocket? Does it come out of the state grants pocket? Does it come out of the federal grants pocket? Like, whose pocket does it come out of? Like, who's on the hook for the steel?
that's a great question, and
And is that risk to this agency? Those other agencies cover their risks, right? Of how their grants are written, but our job is to cover our risk. And so I don't really understand what the risks involved here are.
If I can bring one comment up on the steel portion of it. We're not gonna be at risk on holding steel. That can be resold. So if something happened, it's tough right now in the steel industry, so there's always, the competition's high. So I would imagine as a board member, if we came to that position, I would just sell
Sure.
it. So.
Yes.
But there are 20 other things that we're gonna start spending money on in the next year in addition to steel. And so, I don't have visibility into what those things are, what that risk is, so I'm concerned, like that's.
So, and this won't allay all the concerns, but so this is my viewpoint, with the early focus on the Fifth Street parking, right, that's the transfer center. If something happened, those dollars, which some of those will be Measure X that could be put into some of the grant dollars that can be applied to that we won't give away. Parking will be definitely something that's usable in the system, not just for transit, but if for some reason everything fell apart at the Coastal Commission, which I don't feel it will, but that project component, I believe, can easily be adapted into something useful for the hospitality industry, for the tourism, additional parking. It could be still with some rerouting. So I'm comfortable on that early focus there. So I don't think we'll lose too much. The tree component, I did listen into the planning commission, and you got good commissioners, and I didn't know you had a tree committee. I was like, we need one. And I'm probably, all the coastal cities probably have tree committees.
We do.
Yeah, see, I didn't realize that.
I think Joe does too.
But there was, I think, roughly 10% of the trees were sick. So those will get replaced. And the bulk of the trees were around the Fifth Street Center project portion. So I think I feel comfortable on that. I don't think the loss of revenues or loss of any time that we put into it would be too detrimental. I mean, a loss of the SURF project would be devastating to the region. But I'm comfortable with the early portions that's just my viewpoint.
I was just gonna mention, you know, Jeff, you've probably gone through, your city's gone through the coastal commission too, but with this was a huge project, over 200 rooms, et cetera. Conference room, anyway. What happened was, what we found, and I'm sure the CERT project's already finding this, is they keep coming back with. Make sure you do this, make sure you do that. I mean, we went through 2.5 years just on that huge project, but they kept coming back, and so finally it was almost like, okay, they cried uncle. You know, they went and approved the project. So not that they cried uncle, but I think we met all the things they wanted
Remember,
to
this
do.
is being recorded.
Yeah, that's right. They met all the things, and I'm just giving you an example of what we went through the coastal commission, and they the owners of the property also accommodated the coastal commission on all the things they needed to do, and it was approved. Now I'm only using an example of what we went through on this ATC project. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would bring up, you know, now that Joe has sort of opened this door, I would bring up that, you know, with Joe's project, as with, you know, projects that have happened, you know, in Carmel in the past that have been subject to coastal commission review. You know, sometimes the coastal commission takes a bite out of projects or requires alterations of projects. And so, you know, if the coastal commission were to look at our project, look at this bus lane and say, well, we don't like the way that you've routed it here, and you could do less environmental damage if you routed it there. We have a different version of that problem, right? So we have another year or another 2 years of taking our design from 60 or 95% back to 30% and saying we need to get it off the rail track, or we need to, you know, we got this letter from Brian Rosen, which I'm sure you've seen, about rail and you know, so there are all sorts of ways, you know, this is the risk that I'm talking about. There are all sorts of ways the coastal commission could delay it or take a bite out of it that would cause the schedule to slip. That are risky for us. So I'll stop, and we can talk about this more offline.
Sure.
Yeah, just one more remark. I agree with Mike Labar that the Fifth Street station, you know, it would be devastating for the region if the SERP would not be approved, which I think we can be pretty sure that the Coastal Commission will approve this, just seeing what they want, you know, and see how good the plans are. They know how much, how many cars will be taken off the road, etc. But if they would not approve, I agree that Fifth Street station could be rerouted with bus routes from the other side. It would still be a hub, a transit hub, with a new development right next to it, a new courthouse very close by. It will be used. But yeah, it will be devastating. Just for the region not having that line 20 between Monterey and Salinas going through that bus way. So, but I'm not too concerned. Yeah, I agree it could be a delay, but postponement. There's nothing we can do now. We can only wait for the Coastal Commission to put it on the agenda.
We're moving forward
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
at risk.
Yeah, with the risk, yeah.
Calculated risk.
Calculated risk.
So what's the next agenda?
So, thank you for that update, Lisa. And, we'll move on to the next item.
Madam
which is-
Chair, public comment.
Oh, I'm so sorry, thank you. We'll open this up to public comment. And the public comment, we'll open on this item.
I see none.
See, and none in the room, so we'll close public comment. And, once again, thank you, Lisa, for the update. We'll move on to item 4.3. This is to receive an update on Clean California grant. And you have a handout in front of you.
Morning, board. Paul Lucas, Facility Maintenance Manager, MST. I'm going to give you an update on the Clean Beautification Project update I'll just say that the Clean California Grant Project will allow us to purchase, replacing existing bike racks at Marina Transit Exchange with new units, install one public bike rack at Marina Transit Exchange. I mean, public accessible workstation at Marina Exchange and existing bike racks. Paint and repair and beautify Marina Transit. Install 19 replacement shelters, including new trash cans at existing locations throughout Monterey County. And beautify 56 existing bus stops, including installing 25 replacement trash cans at the stops. Next slide, please. So, next slide. Sorry about that. Okay, so I'm sorry, I think I messed up on this. Okay, so I have a project in Marina. It included painting the sheltered areas, refinishing the glue lamps and benches. The contract awarded to Perfection Painting. And it started March 25th and completed April 10th. Next slide, please. So evident there from the corrosion observed in the pictures, this was throughout all the sheltered areas. The support beams up to the metal ceiling was rusting away. Next slide, please. Corrosion at the bottom of the shelters was throughout the shelters. Next slide. The benches and the glue lamps were faded and required refinishing. And next slide. So on the next slide, you'll see that they had refinished the benches and the glue lamps on this slide. Next slide, please. So here is the refinishing of the benches, nice and shiny, and they put approximately 3 coats of stain on there, so it'll last hopefully a long time than the other one. Next slide. The metal roof of the shelter building undergoes rust prevention treatment and is coated with epoxy paint for an enhanced protection and durability. Next slide. Here's a picture of the ceiling of that where it was rusted, where it was treated. Next slide. And here's a picture of the shelter area complete, refurnished. I mean, I'd say that everything looks really good. The metal was deteriorating, but some spots were treated and resealed with a coat of the rust resistant paint. Next slide. There's another picture of the area that was rusted and treated. And here are the glue lamps that were also refinished and repainted. The fire piping that was there was rusting, so we repainted that also. Next slide. So here's a picture of the sign in front of MTX, Marina Transit Exchange. The support structure brace had corrosion. It went all the way through that structure. So Valley Fabrication was contracted to perform the necessary repairs to that support brace. We replaced it with 1-inch thick flat iron instead of the hollow pole that was there. For better reinforcement and longer durability from rust. The MTX sign is near completion and existing sign has been powder coated. And currently the sign company Safety Equip is installing the new decals on the sign. Following this, MST Facilities will reinstall the sign. Facilities team. Next slide. There's this. So yeah, that sign needed to be fixed. It was deteriorating. Next slide, please. So now we're going to the beautification of Marina Exchange landscape project. The landscape required extensive trimming of bushes and hedges, as well as trimming of overgrown plants. Additionally, the existing ground mulch covering has largely deteriorated. Next slide. Contractor was awarded to turf tenders. Next. Starting March 20th. Project is not complete. Next. So landscape mulch is pretty much deteriorated. All the grounds needed to be trimmed back. You could see walking past through there, and it was in needed of this project. Next slide. There's a picture of the overgrown plants and mulch. Next slide. Again, just another picture of what it was before. Next slide. So there's a retaining wall that was there. It's no longer retaining anything. Sand's just going down. Next slide. So here's an updated picture of what it looks like now. Mulch has been laid down. Next slide. Trimming back some of the plants that were there, the existing plants that were there. There were some dead ones that there and replanted with the same existing plants that we had there. So next slide. Next slide. Yeah, so there was this project took a little bit longer than I thought. There was a shortage on the mulch, so it delayed it by a week, but they got a delivery, if you could see the back. So they're moving on. They're showing progress now. Next slide. And here's the retaining wall rebuilt. That was built by the facilities team. Next slide. So here's the bike locking rack and public accessible workstation that we'll be putting in Marina. We're going to get 6 of those new shadow bike racks. That's made with galvanized steel to prevent rusting, and also install 1 public accessible workstation. The workstation has all the essential tools to repair flats or minor repairs to bikes. Install should be completed sometime this week. Next slide. So the 19 shelters, replacement shelters at the bus stop beautification project, they're on order and they should be here sometime in July. And we'll be installing those throughout Monterey County. The bus stop beautification, which exists with 56 stops, I do have no update on that because we just started that last week. Next slide. Questions?
Thank you, Paul. Mike?
Yeah, starting with the bike rack. So the ones that you showed in the picture, those are installed?
They're not installed yet.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Because the only thing I was gonna suggest, make sure they're not too close to each other.
That's correct.
All right.
Yes.
I've already got that one.
Yes.
'Cause
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna space them all out. And then in the center, we're gonna put the repair station, and then they'll spaced out. Each bike rack will be spaced out with enough room to repair your bike and lock your bike with those additional 6.
And that was the only thing I was concerned about, that people would bunch them up. The landscaping one with the mulch, so the before pictures, obviously people have been walking through that. And the only thing that, when I see those types of instances where people are naturally making these paths, is if was there any prohibition of walking through there, and that's why we didn't, okay, we should have. I would have looked at considering putting gravel in where those natural pathways were, so that the rest would not be disturbed. I think we're gonna just see within 6 months the push aside of the mulch. That'd be my only comment, is you try to preserve those things that the people are doing naturally, and that just makes things easier.
Thank you. Mike.
Thank you.
Joe?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you very much for the presentation. Appreciate that. A lot of work was put into it. I have just a question. What if someone says, I want a bus bench in a certain location? Do they contact you, or?
They would contact planning first, and they'll look at the ridership there, and then they determine if we will put a bench there.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for the presentation, and I'm sorry I haven't seen it yet. I will go there and I'll
Okay.
look at it because it looked pretty bad beforehand.
Yes.
And especially that sign that I took a right by picture when I was in my car. But just in general, and it's not just MST, it's every city in this country, and I'm afraid we need to have a long-term maintenance plan to prevent this from happening again. We know it needs to be painted regularly, especially at the coast.
That's
And why do we wait until things look bad? And then we have to spend so much money. So, but that's not for you, that's for us, I guess, to see how we can prevent this from happening, not in Marina, just in Marina, but for the entire MST area. So,
Yeah, we can put it in our, we could put that in our mains program for sure and have it done maybe every 3 years.
yes, at least the horizontal parts, and as you know, anything that can rust will rust in Marina.
Yes, that's for
And
sure.
so I hope that they also use the right bolts and not the incompatible material, metals.
Stainless steel.
Yes, also for the bolts. Okay, because sometimes they forget to do that and then it eats up or it gets eaten up.
Yes.
So, no, thank you. I'm going to look there. And oh, just one more remark. I always like to paint when it's drier, so later in the year, in the summer, but
Yes,
I hope that it was still okay.
yes, it worked out.
It's all water-based,
Yeah.
so. But thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Yeah, yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Well, Mr. Lopez, congratulations. I really enjoy the after pictures. But yeah, that was my question as well. I don't know why at times, for example, if I'm the person that's in charge of cleaning the bus stop and I start looking, hey, this is getting, maybe it needs some touch up. Versus, hey, well, we'll just wait when it ends up more expensive when we wait longer.
That's correct.
What do you think that is? I mean, any idea? Yeah, because some of these issues right here that were your before pictures, again, I'm gonna focus on the after pictures. But yeah, if I'm cleaning the whatever, and I see maybe a trash can, this trash can's in really bad shape. I'm just gonna change it, but no, we wait till it's all corroded and it's falling apart.
We do have an EAM system that will bring up maintenance, PM maintenance on our facilities, and which I am in charge of, so I will put that on
Yeah.
our PM schedule.
Yeah,
Look at
because you
things
know
like
what,
that, yes.
and I'm sorry, but it looks safer when something looks nice. For some reason, it feels safe. But when something is either cracked or there's a vandalism, it feels unsafe. So if there's something that's really corroded, oh man, nobody's taken care of this for a while now. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Makes sense.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm gonna comment, so when you were, trading or when you were working on the bus stops, did you, use on the rust, did you use sandblaster? Did you use?
It was,
metal grinder?
they used a grinder and then they treated it with a rust prevention paint,
Okay,
primer paint. And they
okay,
put 2 coats of that and then 1 coat of the epoxy.
okay. And then on the, just on the, I guess it was on slide number 5, so it was the metal, it looked like frames, I don't know if that's glass.
Oh, yeah, that was
or-
glass underneath,
So
yes.
was that aluminum and did you have to repurchase?
No, we didn't. It wasn't damaged at all.
All right, that was my question. Thank you. I'm gonna open it up for public comment at this time. Public comment is open. Not seen in public, so we'll go ahead and close public comment. And Tony, Paul, I'd like to thank you for your presentation.
You're welcome.
Thanks. And with that, we'll move on to the next item, 4, and this is to receive a update on South County circulator bus stops. And it's
Good morning, members of the committee, Vince Stang, project manager coordinator. Just going to give you a short update on the South County Circulator project we've been working on. I'll try to keep it quick because I know we're running low on time. So I'll start with Gonzalez. Next slide, please. So in Gonzalez, we actually recently presented our final stop list to them on April 1st. We've been working collaboratively with them to include the business park and Canyon Creek Park areas you can see there on the map. Originally, they weren't included, but from city staff's recommendation, we added those to the mapping. At this point, the plans are going through final plan check, and I'm trying to get encroachment permit approval. And final design should be complete at the end of this month. Next slide, please. Next city I'm going to talk about is Soledad. So we presented to them the final stop list on March 6th. We've been working with the city as well. There were some slight adjustments they wanted us to make to help with the competing projects that the city infrastructure is doing that's been going on. But no major changes. We're going through final plan check and encroachment permit approval as well for Soledad, and design as well should be complete at the end of the month. Next slide, please. Talking schedule. So I'm hoping that the final design will be sent over to us by the end of the month, and we're going to start the procurement process. By summer, we'll hopefully bring a contractor with an accepted proposal for the MST board to approve the construction. The construction should take place in fall, with hopefully service starting for lines 31 and 32 Gonzales and Soledad in the winter. Next slide, please. And the last city is Greenfield. So recently met with them on April 2nd to discuss alternative locations. Next steps, the city staff is meeting internally to review on the 17th. They're going to talk about a couple of locations that may have presented some issues, and then I'll reconvene with them on the 17th for final concurrence. This one's going to take a little longer. Design's ongoing. I'm not really sure what the timeline is going to be, but after the meeting on the 22nd, I should have a better grasp, and then we can present that in a later update. And as well, the procurement for the construction for this project is going to be separate, probably procured, sometime later in the year. Next slide. And that's a quick update. I'd like to thank you all for listening to me. Any questions? I'm happy to answer.
Thank you. Any questions?
Just a comment. One is I'm glad to see that the cities, their projects are coming forward. That's really important. At some point, I don't know when it'd be appropriate, but to have a discussion, since now MST is doing so well on the recruitment and training of drivers, is looking at the Saturday or weekend component to those. And so we can start having that discussion of what that would look like. What does the labor and the additional costs look like? But I could see a Saturday, at least a Saturday, being something very useful.
Got it down.
Thank you so much. And gotta remind you, for $2, you can ride that thing and then go all the way to Salinas.
The city.
Yes, the city.
With that, Vicky, if there are no other comments, we're gonna go ahead and open this up to the public. Public comment, please open. Not seeing any. We'll go ahead and close public comment. And I'd like to thank you, Vince.
Thank you.
We'll go ahead and move on to item 4.5. This is to receive update on current capital projects grants. And is Michelle here?
No, actually, Michelle is in Washington, DC, and she's doing a course through Transportation. It's a senior executive training program that I went through several years ago. And so she wanted to update the board or the committee on some of the grant applications we're after right now, totaling over $11 million through several programs, and I will be brief. The first one is congressionally directed spending, aka earmark requests. We're looking for battery electric and hydrogen fuel cell buses, and we are seeking funding from Zoe Lofgren, from Panetta, et cetera. And so also Butler and Padilla would spread a wide net, see who bites. But what it basically entails is for the hydrogen fueling is retrofitting our South County facility to be able to be hydrogen ready when we need to, because those lines are the longer distance ones, and we need the hydrogen fuel cell technology to be able to make those longer routes compared to the battery electrics. We also have a low or no emission grant application that we're working on with our partners. We developed a Central Coast Super Region Consortium with the Central Coast area, including San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara, Santa Cruz. And what we're trying to do there is show the federal program, the FTA, that we are a consortium. We're wanting to purchase 18 battery electric vehicles through a joint procurement, as well as standardized buses. So it hopefully raises us up in the priority for the federal government. We've gone after the low-no program several times, and while we score high, we don't score high enough to be awarded. So we're after that one. The Silicon Coast Hydrogen Bus Consortium, also hydrogen fuel cell technology. That one is being led by the VTA in partnership with MST and also Santa Cruz Metro. And then we've also had a Caltrans Sustainable Transportation Planning Grant application out there for the East Alisal BRT, as well as the Salinas Transit Center relocation study, but we won't know the results of that until later this year. So we have a lot of grant applications out there. Hopefully we'll get a few of them.
Thank you, Lisa. Any comments from directors? Not seeing any, we'll open it up to public comment. Any comments from the public? And not seeing any, we'll go ahead and close the public comment. And we'll move on. There is no closed session, so we'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting.